Okay. Well, should we get cracking through with the agenda?
Absolutely. I don't think there's a ton on it today.
I think the first item we should definitely say is anyone in the audience who wants to chip in, by all means, raise your hand and post your message in the chat. And you can do that at any point, and we'll bring you in at the right moment. So were we just? I was typing, so I wasn't listening. Did we just do the announcement of our event next Thursday?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So was that yes? We just done that announcement.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was.
Go ahead.
Multitasking. Okay, so that's been done. And then, so short updates. Wait, I want to. You go ahead, please.
I'm
reading
trying
from
to get both things on my screen at once. That better. Nice. Yeah, okay. I think for ops, there's not that much to discuss. I saw Nick did some work on CI/CD. Is that relevant to mention here, Nick?
I mean, I published an entire package called Gravitas ML for parsing responses from Anthropic, but I don't think is that relevant to the ops. That's where all the CI/CD work.
I'll put that under development.
Okay. But yeah, that's what the ops was for CI/CD.
Okay. Then I don't think we have any other operations things to share. Nothing really changed in how we organize stuff.
Actually, that is a point. CI/CD. It's currently broken, isn't it, at the moment, because of the benchmark changes?
Yeah.
Well, not just that. Like there's multiple things broken right now. One of the things is poetry, which doesn't really handle optional dependencies being broken very well. That's something for which I have a patch underway, but it's it's a work in progress. And I felt it was not important enough to kind of bodge a fix in the meantime for the Docker setup. So yeah, the Docker CI is currently broken because of that, and it'll be fixed once poetry is fixed.
Great.
Oh yeah, I mean, to be fair, I thought you were talking about this, but maybe you're talking about the benchmark CI, like the old one, which yes, that is broken because of changes to the benchmarking system, and we should probably just remove that.
So what? Remove the whole ops section from the agenda?
No. I mean, we can remove that benchmark CI workflow because it's made to work with the old system and we don't use it anymore.
So at the moment, I'm just typing the actions here, but Nick, I think you had a system of actually adding these as action tickets.
Yeah, I see the bottom of the document.
Yeah, at the bottom you can add them as tickets. So it sounds like somebody needs to evaluate the CI with puts and decide what to do with it and rewrite it, more or less. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Like most of the CI workflows are fine. There's just a couple that are either broken because of problems with the workflow or problems with the code base.
Gotcha.
And
okay, so
yeah,
I did that.
Then let's move on. The research, any updates?
Yeah, I was researching GPTV for the vision stuff last night, trying to get it to play a game. It actually works pretty well. at identifying, like in the agent loop, like what next behavior to do based off that contextual information. It was able to play Star Citizen. Obviously, I'd like set up input tracking and all that, like so it couldn't actually play the game. But it was able to determine the next thing to do, which is pretty surprising to me because it's a pretty complex game with very little guidance and just running in a loop every 10 seconds. So, one, sorry for the bill that's going to incur. Two, it's pretty capable. I've also been testing Anthropic, and we'll get into this a little bit more later. It seems like the super large context window on Anthropic is far more useful than GPT-4's. I don't know. I don't have any quantitative data for that yet, but it just feels like it.
Right, so you're saying that Anthropic can better handle a large context size than GPT-4?
Yeah, exactly. It just feels like that. I don't have any actual data for that, and I don't plan on building any actual data for that. One of the proofs of concept, though, I tried between both, and Anthropic's able to reply in like a reasonable manner every time, whereas GPT-4 goes off the rails. So. But that might be controlled by prompting and all kinds of stuff, you know?
Yeah, so did you experiment with Claude 2?
Yeah, exactly. And all the maintainer team should have access to that. If you don't, reach out to me. But yeah, that's my 2 items of research for findings.
I'd just like to add regarding GPT-4 that something's unusual with it just now, especially with Bing. Bing is just so heavily restricted. It's not funny. It's not pulling even public domain documents, which, you know, they're bloody public domain. The search engine should not be restricted for those documents, but it is. And what I witnessed today as well, checking out WebPilot's API costs, which were absolutely astronomical, that the monetization, I think, could get a bit out of hand going forward. But I think we need to wait and see, because it doesn't make sense how restricted one GPT is in some regards now, GPT-4, sorry, and Bing. So there must be some conversations going on in the background regarding all this, because it just doesn't make sense. So maybe think about holding out a wee bit, you know, just before doing any big things, just to see how, because they're going to have to ease up those restrictions at some point, because it's ridiculous right now in some regards.
Are you saying it can't like find Project Gutenberg files and stuff like that, like with public open source books?
No. Okay, so I finally got one of my models to go live today after waiting for them to fix the verification stuff. And sorry, I've just lost my train of thought there. What was your question again?
Is it like Project Gutenberg files?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I was getting it to Scottish Government, public domain. You know, documents that are on their website purposely for transparency, you know. It's the law, right? And it wouldn't pull anything. It wouldn't even pull documents from NCBI, wouldn't pull any government documents. No public domain. It would tell me to go and look for them and paste the text in. Right. Thankfully, WebPilot is still pulling documents, but Bing won't touch them. Won't touch any. Try it. Will not pull any documents. Will not cite any documents, which is, I don't understand it. It's not normal. I'd like to think they're not going to keep that up because, I mean, if they do keep it up, then that means it's going to get heavily monetized through API calls, because then you're going to need Scholar AI for academic stuff. You're going to need WebPilot probably to do the things Bing isn't doing. And God knows what other APIs you're going to end up adding onto your GPT models, man. You know, and that all that adds up. And Web Pilot is expensive, by the way, ridiculously so. You're talking about 5.5 cents for one search query, right? With GPT 3.5, 16K, I think it was. Obviously, way more expensive for GPT-4. So, dude, it could get a bit of a nightmare, man. And I'm not the biggest fan of all these subscription services going on just now, anyway. But yeah, those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, will you send me the queries you tried to run? I'll see if I can replicate it on my side.
Okay.
Thanks. Any other research?
Yeah, I thought I'd just mention a little bit of what I've been messing around with in my free time about open source LLMs. I'm quite keen on trying to work out just exactly where the state of the art LLMs are in terms of like practical use. And so I don't know if many of you have, well, obviously everyone's heard of Llama 2. I don't know how many people have heard of Mistral and the models that have been derived off that. And there's a Chinese model called Yai as well. So Wizard LM, which is Llama 2's fine tuning, that I think is the most capable model that's out there at the moment that I can run. I say I can run because the benchmark suggests this Yai model is the most capable. However, I can't get any of the 34 billion models to run. Once they start running, they start spawning out gibberish, which I don't understand, just the same word over and over. However, the 70 billion model does, put out the correct information. So I think one of the most interesting thing I've come across really are these Mistral models and their fine tunings. And they're only 7 billion parameters, and yet they feel almost as capable as ChatGPT 3. So I think they're well worth checking out and be very curious on just how far we could push them as an engine for an agent. Because they're super fast as well. So that's what
Mistral's
I've been
great.
looking at.
Mistral's
It's
great.
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, dude. Bentley's got go on. Bentley's
That's a fine tuning yarn, I think. Is it? Yeah, it's a fine tuning by Nuss.
this research. Are you using the this research, Mistral Bentley? Is that the one you're using? I don't think it is. The Instruct. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Mistral's great, man. Pumps out some great code.
Yeah, so I think it's potential that this opens up a whole new door for local LLM-based models because these are really fast and they don't take much RAM at all, only like 8 GB. So that's what I've been looking into. Next section is development, unless anyone else wants to add in anything about research. So Bentley, I think you're first with OpenSearch.
Yeah, I mean, um, of course, we're all very impressed with this development because, like, there's existing products like Perplexity AI, but they're not open source, and this, having a working, powerful, and open source Q&A engine would really augment the knowledge retrieval capabilities of our agent, but also, it can be used as a standalone product or project. Question is, of course, how we're going to integrate this into our agent, because, well, it's not free to run. So does anyone have any very good ideas for this? Because I mean, I do have some, but
Yeah, me and Bentley have discussed it a few times. I mean, there's loads of options, man. I really, if you think about it. Personally, for me, ideally, I'd love to see a sponsor to kind of soak up some of the costs, and we have spoke about that. Not too intrusive, nothing to do with like even ads and stuff. Just essentially an advertisement of their logo, potentially even. But yeah, yeah, we're currently thinking about that quite a lot, to be honest, Poots.
yeah, because like my first guess was like I think the easiest solution is to use this API key based system for now, and I'll just make it optional in the agent. So if you have an API key, you can use it. If you don't, then it will still have the original web browsing capabilities, and we can give out API keys based on people who ask for it and who we, trust not to abuse it. Of course, if we can get the sponsorship to provide for this functionality, that would be amazing. But I didn't assume that for now.
Oh no, of course not. But I'd like to add that we've also talked about giving people access, but obviously rate limiting them. And in
Yeah.
the event that they needed more, then then yeah, there could be a subscription service that kicks in for them to go up
Yeah.
another tier, let's say. What do you think, Bentley?
Yeah. So I guess we'll just work this out internally and update the public whenever we're ready. Because, sorry, go on.
I see this being as a drug. It is that good, they'll come back for more. It beats Google, totally beats Bing. Google, I say it's 60-40 in open search's favor, but yeah, like I guarantee you they'll come back for more.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you see how quickly this could be built, I'm pretty sure we can make some significant improvements to this to make it even more appealing. So yeah, this is a really nice project. Kudos to Bentley, and of course everyone else who contributed to the idea and the implementation and brainstorming. But
yeah, we've been really impressed by it.
yeah. All right, next development item. That's AutoGPT. The past period was mostly one of architectural logistical changes to make it work with our new benchmarking system, make it stateful, allow you to save your agents and reuse them, etc., etc. But now that the hackathon is concluded, we have seen a lot of interesting new technologies and ideas and workflows that we can use to improve the performance of our agent. So I'm currently working on a new to-do list. It's going to be pretty similar to the one that was there for the hackathon, but this one is going to be less based on the 2 weeks that we had for the hackathon and more on our general longer term goals. And this to-do list should help us boost the performance of the agent to the next level, and also should help the community organize itself around the bigger sub goals that we have, such as improving web browser capabilities, improving coding abilities, improving knowledge retrieval, things like that. Because some of these goals are too big for single part-time contributor to pick up. But if you're working in a team, and in a bit of an organized way, then it can be pretty doable, especially with some guidance. So that's what we're going for. And of course, when this to-do list is done, we'll make sure to communicate it clearly and open our channels to any interested contributors. That's it for me.
That's
Any
great.
questions or remarks? Let me check the chat. I don't see any questions. All right. Then we're on to Gravitas ML by Nick.
Howdy, y'all. Paste the link in chat. Not a whole lot to it. It's just a super simple parser to take a certain structure of reply that works really well with Anthropic and convert it to an object and or a Pydantic object. Pretty easy. Yeah.
Cool.
I've used it for a couple projects. There's tests if you want to see what it can do. Test parser is where you want to live.
Do you want to give a hint as to how it works? Like, what's the magic here?
It's pretty simple. All it does is tokenize the content into it's basically a simple XML format, right? It doesn't have all the rules that XML works. And the reason I think it works so well for Anthropic is it's akin to a bunch of different languages without having any of the complex rules of all of those languages, right? The only requirement is that there's an opening and closing tag that match. And you can put whatever you want in those tags. There are going to be spaces, underscores, emojis, whatever. As long as there's an open and closing tag and it matches, it'll work.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Nice.
If there's two of the same tag at the same level, it makes it a list. If there's different tags at the same level, it makes them a dictionary. So it's pretty easy to use. It does cause a little bit of extra wrapper objects, I'll say, where certain things need wrapped by like an additional thing, so they become a list of dictionaries. But overall, I gotta say, it works really well for Anthropic. I was using it last night with my GPT vision stuff, and it was also working really well there too. All you do is say reply in the following format. And do something like hold on, this is going to take a hot minute. I got to type this out. This is going to be some fill in the air, some vamping. You know?
Okay. I can move on if you want, and you can just type it out in the chat.
Yeah, but basically you just structure your reply.
And using XML makes it easier for the LLM to follow because it's less, basically less of a brain fuck than JSON, I guess.
Yeah. Not only that, it's not actual XML, right? I guess we can go into it a little bit better. Between each of the tags, it's interpreted as a string. And then if you want to parse that, it's parsed by Pydantic and coerced into an actual type. So the model's not concerned about quoting, unquoting, commas, semicolons, or anything like that. Pretty much the only limitation is you can't use it with like an XML-like language, because it can't tell when you're talking about it or itself. But otherwise, It works really well.
I guess we could probably find a solution for that problem.
I just didn't care to write it.
It's yeah,
I know.
but for now this seems very nice.
Yeah, exactly. I encourage you all to give it a shot.
Cool. Very nice. All right. Next up is documentation. Bentley's been working on a restructuring of the docs. This was also announced last week. There was a call for feedback. I think a couple of feedback items were raised. I currently have a tab open to rewrite the introduction about AutoGPT, and I think that's the last semi-significant to-do that's still left open, right? All right, and then we can just iterate from there. But it's very nice to just have a basic structure set up that supports our multiple projects. So I propose that we set a deadline on this for I don't know, tomorrow 12 p.m. UTC or whatever, and then just merge it and iterate from there. Because keeping this open until all the details are filled in it's not gonna work. Oh, was I muted? Oops.
Yeah.
Audio kind of cut off there, yeah.
Okay. Long story short, merge the new docs tomorrow, 12 p.m. UTC. Everything that's not done by then can be done later via individual pull requests, and we'll see where it goes from there.
So the next thing on the list is something that came up as an action last week, and then we don't really have a good mechanism yet of tracking people who are collaborating in the project. And if we don't have a good mechanism of tracking people, we don't have a good mechanism of letting people know what they're interested in, what's going on, how they can contribute. And we don't have a good mechanism of trying to take people who are just active in the community and transition them all the way up into maintainers. And so just before this meeting, I started off trying to make a CRM that tracks the different contributors in the public AutoGPT community thing. I just put in a bunch of people, and I should hopefully have added everyone that's in the meeting. But obviously, this is just a few seconds of work rather than a really refined system. Should I share my screen a little bit so people can see what's going on?
Have you checked out the contributor list that Luke and I don't know someone else had already composed?
I was not aware of it at all.
Okay.
I was just trying to action some of the tasks from last week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure where it is, but I know that there was some organization going on earlier that kind of ground to a halt the hackathon because we were focused on other things. But there should be some resources that you can use to fill out this spreadsheet.
Guys, one idea that I've been suggesting for similar cases is probably like you have the CRM already set up, but it would be very useful if you have a forum where people can manually sign up as contributors or like people who want to, put some time into the project. And from there, though, like the idea is to generate this golden path or storyline where they would be advancing in, complexity of what are they helping with. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Like a self-assignable role for a contributor or something.
Hey, would it be cool if we had a Discord bot that could do that?
Sorry?
Yeah, then cool have like a integrated Discord so they can just sign up via Discord.
I think we do have that.
Right.
Like I think yeah, we have this channel called Get Roles, and people can sign up there to get certain roles. If we just add a a role there for people who want to contribute. And we could try adding tiers to that, but I'm not sure if that really makes a lot of sense
No,
right
yeah.
now.
I would say more like the tiers are already set up, right? We have catalysts, we have maintainers, we have support. But if we want to see what's the intent of engagement of people, they can get that first role in, and then we invite them to these calls, we invite them to make specific PRs and so on.
So should we just use the existing contributor role for this?
Yeah, the idea is not to be making new roles or not to be building new systems of how to track contributors. The idea is to be able to keep track of who is actually contributing actively, so that we know, because obviously things happen in their lives and they don't continuously contribute. We've had many great people take part of the project who've had to drop off because of other engagements. And it'd be good to be able to have some sort of system that not just like registers it in a location where we can do, as media was talking about, this golden path of trying to help them from just being active to being able to actually be contributors and maintainers of the project, but also something that can automatically track when they stop contributing, so you can see they've stopped messaging on Discord or something.
Bentley has already added GitHub authentication to the GitHub bot that we have, so that you can respond, with your own account in the forum that contains all the issues and pull requests. I think if we can maybe add some functionality to that, I think Hunter might also be interested in that. That just keeps track of the Git history, and links the Git history to people on Discord, and just keeps I don't know, a scoreboard or a shout out list, something that kind of shows who's doing what for the past week or the past month, so that we can kind of show what people have been doing and who's active.
Who do you think is best positioned to move this idea forward over the next week? We're going to
Bentley and
give
Hunter.
them the task. Bentley and Hunter. Bentley, are you interested in working on this a little bit this week?
Because I know that Hunter was already planning to add a like an automated update channel to this server for like the people on the core team. But of course we can expand that to contributors, and just keep track of their GitHub history as well, and add them to this update system. Plus maybe a little scoreboard or shout out something. I think that combines really well with the. Sorry.
I'm just going to add an action for Bentley when he's back. If you'd like to progress this a little bit, like especially around what we already have, because I'm totally unaware of what it.
Yeah. If we can get Bentley and Hunter to talk to each other about this, I mean, I'd be happy to join if that helps. I think we can get a lot done in a week.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, I've assigned you three to the task, and I'll ping your later as well. That ended that collaboration bit. The next thing was, so the other problem I'm encountering is I made this system so that people can enter the arena. Toron wants us to keep it going, keep merging them in, but it's generating a lot of PRs, and it'd be cool if there be a way that we could just auto detect if they were okay to merge and merge them in.
I think we can do that with a GitHub workflow, as long as it doesn't overwrite any existing entries.
Okay, cool. So, do you have any idea how to do that?
I do, but I would prefer not to make a lot of time for that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure ChatGPT can help you with that.
Yeah. Then future AutoGPT. So this is just now a point to talk about where we're going and especially around how we want to start trying to make it easy for people to collaborate and what the overall plan is. And I talked to Torin a little bit and kind of what the thinking is at the moment, or not at the moment, is the thinking is we're going to be AutoGPT, we want AutoGPT to be the best generalist agent out there. And so it's going to continue to be worked on. And we want to try and make it as easy for everybody to contribute to it as possible. What that means, we haven't actually got anything specific yet, but maybe we can start adding in a little bit of a planning session of anybody who wants to be a contributor in this meeting as well. What do you think, Putes?
What do I think of what exactly?
Adding in a little section for the agenda for everybody who wants to contribute to the project to discuss like the roadmap a little bit. Yes, like Project Power Unique.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
We can come up with a good name for that later.
And then Evo Ninja. Do you want to talk about Evo Ninja?
Contributor corner.
Yeah, just mentioning that on Thursday we'll have like a rundown with the team to go through the code and do some Q&A. So yeah, we have set up the event already in the Discord and look forward to that.
That's with regard to Evo Ninja, right?
Yes. Yeah, so Thursday at 5 p.m. CET or 4 p.m. UK time. I don't know what that is in American time. We're going to be going through a deep dive of what made Evo Ninja the best generalist agent and how they ended up winning this hackathon. And so we're very lucky to have the Evo Ninja team being keen to actually share all their insights with us on Thursday. So I'll definitely come along to that if you're keen on building really good generalist agents. And I definitely can't wait to find out how they did it.
Yeah, I thought it was a really nice solution. With my, albeit somewhat limited knowledge of how it works, it's pretty impressive. So I would definitely recommend anyone to go to that session and hear them out.
Do we have anything for visibility now?
Well, before we go to that, sorry, my brain is still at the community planning point.
Okay, cool.
Because I know that Scott and Bentley and Torin have been talking about this as well, about ways to kind of bolster our community. Do you guys have anything to add for that? Okay, cool. I guess we'll hear about this in the future because I'm excited excited about this too. Also, Ziggy, if you want to make TikToks about our project, then feel free. All right, moving on to visibility. I
Sorry.
don't. Ooh.
Yeah, maybe it's also visibility, but I was gonna mention like the Twitter account, just to maybe try to have some sort of like more recurrent posting, like once a week, just share something. Yeah, keeping it
I
up to
agree.
date.
Yeah. I was thinking about this earlier. Like we should really get some Twitter, maybe also a newsletter, like once every 2 weeks, once a month, or something. Some regular posting to give some signs of life because we've not really been doing that.
How about if we get everybody on the team access and maybe a few other people access to the account and try and get everybody to kind of post once a week? And with all of us, that'd be like a post a day.
I mean, that sounds good to me. As long as it doesn't become like too diluted. If there's nothing interesting to post about, we shouldn't post.
Of course, and always keep it relevant. But I think that's a good idea, Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because until we actually get someone who's specialized in this, none of us are really specialized in it at all. So any one of us taking it on kind of doesn't make sense because we're not going to actually do it that well, to be fair. And we're dedicating a lot of time on it when we should be dedicating time onto coding. So if we all do like one a week, that's not too much of a burden, and I guess we all get to learn a bit off each other.
The only counterpoint I have for like sharing responsibility is sort of one relevance of the tweet and like the structure or like the voice of the brand should be consistent. And I was thinking that we had a person, Nick, you might know, Kristen, who was down to help with this, and she was doing a couple of posts, but I haven't seen her actively lately.
Yeah, she just ran into a lot of trouble trying to get anything done. Right, like there wasn't a clear brand guidelines, and every time she tried to do that, we weren't ready for her basically, and nobody had the time to like set that up correctly.
Yeah. So do we have time now for that?
I think that's a Torin question because I don't have access
Okay.
to social media.
She was doing a good job for sharing updates. Like she even prepared like a couple of Reddit posts and stuff. So I think like for someone just to keep the media channels up to date, it'd be a good fit. But since she's not been active lately, I just didn't know if she was still like down for it.
Yeah, I don't know if she's still interested. I can ask, but I think a lot of it was just there was nothing to do because there was nothing to do because there was nothing to do. You know what I mean? Like it was like a recursive problem of I have to go chase people up about a topic I don't know anything about, and it was just like a pain.
Maybe we should push this task up to Turan because he must have plans about this because we definitely need to start having a bit better publicity in terms of like communication with people.
Absolutely.
And I don't think anyone here is particularly specialized on the team at least to take it on because we're all
Okay.
coders.
So does either of you want to kind of summarize our thoughts on this and forward that to Torin?
Yeah, simply just look at all the other teams and how they communicate on social media, especially at X. Some of those teams, I mean, I'm on, well, I work at home, so, I've got X open while I'm working. Bentley's kind of always available during the day as well for social media stuff. So, we have the members available to interact and do these things on social media, during certain hours of the day already. And also coordinate with each other, to promote these posts. Just as other teams do it, look at them. You know the teams I'm on about. I'm not going to name them, but you know who I'm on about. And if you look at their posts, it's always the same people, liking, retweeting, making a comment, always.
Yeah. So, action point.
Action point, ask Turan, I guess. So ask Turan what his plans are. And
yeah.
Do we want to suggest a plan?
I can type a couple of points in the team chat.
Because media's comments about like guideline and consistent voice, I think are very relevant, and I have no idea what to do about that.
I've got a fun idea. Copy a bunch of
GPT.
I copy a bunch of text, right, for members' social media profiles, put it through the AI and say, are they worthy for access of their AutoGPT account?
All right, let's move on. We have 3 minutes left within our regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay.
Next point is facilities, auto stand up. Does anyone feel inclined to give an update on this? Because Hunter is not here.
I think it's for Hunter to talk about.
Yeah. Long story short, I mean, I would love to have Hunter talk about this more in the next meeting, but long story short, we have a Discord bot that keeps track of all the team members' progress and summarizes it into little reports and keeps a little scoreboard of how often everyone is posted and what their streak is. And that has really helped us keep track of each other's progress. It's not too intrusive. It's asynchronous, which is great because we work asynchronously, and it gives great insight into what everyone's been doing at any point. Plus, for me at least, it's a great help as well because sometimes when I've been out for 3 days and then get back to work, I don't remember what I was doing last time, and I have that message and that little summary, which is amazing. So, yeah, it's really helped our productivity overall. Next point. A discussion point. From Google, we have no mode, and neither does OpenAI. I think Greg added that.
Yeah, just as an article that came across, apparently it's a bit of an older one, but I thought it was a really interesting read about basically the power of the open source community, especially in large language models development. And even though the open source community doesn't really have the compute that these big companies have, you can see that with Llama 2 being released, the increase, and also now Mistral as well, the increase in capacity capability of these smaller models is now catching up very close to these closed source models. And the premise of the article is that compute isn't really much of a good moat for companies to have. And so they're saying, like, why would people pay for a Google chatbot if it's got lots of restrictions on it, but you have to pay for it when you can get free ones which are pretty much as good? So I think it's just a very optimistic and positive post about what we could all do together and what we can all do together.
Yeah.
I'll just post that in the chat so everyone can see it.
Nice.
Can I just add that going forward, I think we should be conscious of regulations. Our governments have had their summits, and I'm sure there's a whole host of legislation that's going to come along at some point. And I'm pretty sure the majority of that is going to be to address these local LLMs.
Yeah. Have you read through the White House directive on AI? Because the U.S. president recently signed this executive order on AI, and there was some other organizations as well that published some directives or guidelines. And I looked into the White House one, and basically they are one of their objectives is to reduce the dominance of companies that have access to a lot of compute. So basically, to reduce the dominance of Meta and Google and OpenAI, who have access to these massive data centers full of GPUs, when compared to smaller companies that don't have access to those resources but do have other assets. I think that's a good idea. On the other hand, they're going to make bigger companies and companies who try to publish products like dual use foundational models, so models that can be used for civilian purposes but also for dangerous things. They're going to make anyone who makes that jump through a bunch of hoops just to make sure that it's that the output is labeled and that it's safe and that it's not accessible by malicious actors, whatever. So yeah, we might end up seeing some trouble from that in open source projects as well. Although I'm pretty sure you can limit the freedom of such projects, but you can't really stop it. Like that's why it's open source.
I think the legislation's kind of focused, isn't it, on preventing Skynet type thing, as in AGI or controlling AGI. And isn't the White House legislation kicks in if you have so much compute that only two companies in the world has that amount of compute?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so it only kicks in if you have so much compute that in today's compute level, it only affects OpenAI and Google.
Interesting. Okay. Because like I'm very excited to see what, for example, Skunkworks AI with their Hydra LM are doing, because
Yeah, me too.
like this is a community, they're developing a basically an open source GPT-4 version, and with that I mean it's not GPT-4, it's not based on GPT-4, but it's a mixture of experts model, which GPT-4 is as well, and they're using all open source data, all open source code, models, everything. So I'm not sure when they'll release, but it will be really interesting to see how that model performs and what impact that has on the marketplace, let's say.
Yeah, I was kind of quite keen on maybe at some point starting to kickstart our own little project on LLMs, specifically definitely around making sure they return JSON. But maybe there's other things we could do as well. I think it's quite it's a field where if you want to build up expertise inside our community as well.
Yeah, I think that's a nice bridge to another thing that I was going to forget to mention, so thanks. I started a notepad on LLM middleware. So let me see if I can pull that up. Basically, no. More like, I mean, OpenAI has released a bunch of features that can be implemented as middleware, such as the JSON output validator or fixer. They have added something to their code base that makes sure that the model outputs JSON. This is something that you can also do as middleware between an LLM and the client. If you implement it as middleware, then you can use it on multiple models and you can run it kind of independently from the model you're using, which means that this feature is no longer exclusive to OpenAI and their API, but you can use this with any model, which would be very attractive if you're using, if you want to use, for example, thread management, which is very easy to do as middleware, or function calling. That's a bit harder, but still, it should be possible to implement that as middleware for a number of LLMs, as long as they have sufficient level of comprehension. And if you can do that, then the vendor lock-in of OpenAI disappears, which is something that I would very much like. So I haven't had a lot of time for this yet, but I'm kind of looking for collaborators to work on this kind of middleware, maybe build it into existing open source projects or start an entirely new project, to basically reduce the vendor lock-in from this feature release of OpenAI.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I want that to happen. I think it's possible now as well, with these other models out there.
Yeah, definitely, and especially like with Nick found that, for example, Anthropic's models work pretty well with XML output. I think that's going to be true for more models, because basically XML is easier to read than JSON, and that goes for us and also for LLMs. And if we can get this kind of innovations and implement that in a kind of universal layer and put it onto any LLM, then that should be doable, right?
Yeah, I think I worked out how to make sure LLMs output valid JSON as well. It just hit me today. I'm going to try and make a PR for now with C++ and how to do it.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure that the focus on JSON is really the most viable option, because JSON is very nice for parsing and for the processing, but it's just not, if there's option one, which is making LLMs output JSON, which is hard, which has been
I don't think
shown.
it is. I think
Or
it's
you
quite
could try
easy.
make them output something that they can more easily generate, and then convert that to something else afterward. Anyhow, should we move? Do we have any agenda points left? Let's see. Well, team inventory, I think we could skip that because not much has changed. Plan time for unplanned questions and discussions. Does anyone have questions or more points to discuss?
One interesting question. Why? Oh, sorry. Here's a thought. Why not spend the 12 million on H200s and just go directly as a competitor to the big guns? You know, we can offer, you look at what they're going to do. Look at what they've done, right? OpenAI Dev Day this year. Who do you think they're going to go after next year, right? Vector databases, guarantee it, right? So
I
yeah,
would love to get some H100s or H200s. I
good.
don't think it's on our
Yeah.
roadmap, but I'd love it.
Why not? Why not just go directly and compete with them? I feel we have all the infrastructure in place, right? We actually have, I feel, all the staff. Well, technical staff, creative staff, management. We could probably do with some of that, but 12 million, that would get us more than started with that, right? And also bring investment probably quite quickly as well. You know, it's a new competitor on the block. We've got a reputation. You know, we've got an infrastructure in place. We can build on it. I mean, it's just a thought and an idea I had, man. But you know, why not? Why not just go for it? You know.
Yeah.
I feel if we don't, we could end up just like the plugin store, man.
I feel like we could, like technically, we could try to be the OpenAI that people wanted OpenAI to be, which is not a company that says after a little bit of success, okay, we're going to close source everything.
Absolutely.
But we would need to, if we can get this community going in that direction, that would be something that we can look into. Maybe if we can allocate those resources and basically make them available to the community to say, okay, we have these resources, we have these ideas. If you want to go work together and try to build this, then go ahead, use our resources, challenge the establishment or whatever. That's a really cool idea.
So I just sent Poots it, but so I figured out earlier today, or just it entered my head, that you can make any LLM that you control output JSON really quite simply, because LLMs, as they generate one token at a time, they generate a probability space of what the next token is going to be. And if you are instructing it or wanting it to output JSON, and we know what JSON format should be, so if we have a string open with a quotes, we know that that has to be closed with a quotes before it to be valid JSON. And so with a bit of work in the actual decoding step of the LLM, we could actually make a JSON decoder. So instead of decoding it to just a plain string, you decode to JSON. And so every time an LLM responds, it'll only ever respond in JSON.
Yeah.
And then I Googled it and someone's already done that. So
yeah, I mean,
concept
OpenAI does allow that. They allow you to say, okay, just give me the 5 most likely responses, or the 5 most likely next tokens. That's going to be very expensive though, because of the way their API works. Because you're going to be paying for the prompt every single time. So
no, I'm not talking about OpenAI.
Yeah, I know, but like this will work with local models, but not with hosted models as well, because the way that pricing is done.
It will work with local models. It will work with, well, OpenAI already has a solution for us. But otherwise, you're right. Other models that are hosted, like Anthropic ones, you just have to keep asking for JSON.
Yeah.
But
Something that I would be like ideally, from my standpoint, I don't want to run this an LM locally because it's going to be slow. I want it to be as fast as possible, and I'm willing to pay for that. Perplexity offers that service, but Perplexity just hosts a number of these open source models. If they would have more low-level API access to these, these models, or if they would implement these features, that would be very cool.
So there's another company called Together AI, which hosts models, the open source models, and they're really cheap and fast and easy to use, and you can just use it by use Light LLM to use it when I was testing out the Fudge, but still you can't put your own custom decoder on it.
All right, I think that's it for us. If there aren't any more questions, yep. Like, thanks everyone for coming. See you next week, and feel free to engage with us on Discord.
Here's everyone. That was a good one. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Hey,
Thanks,
before you
everyone.
go,